But you know, the toughest thing is to love somebody who has done something mean to you, especially when that somebody has been yourself. Have you ever done anything mean to yourself? Well, it's very important to look inside yourself and find that loving part of you. That's the part that you must take good care of and never be mean to, because that's the part of you that allows you to love your neighbor. And your neighbor is anyone you happen to be with at any time of your life. Respecting and loving your neighbor can give everybody a good feeling.
Hello there.
Hello. It is.
Is it me you're looking for? I feel like we've done that one before.
I do believe you have, but to be fair, we
Yeah.
are so inconsistent with anything that it doesn't really matter. We're basically starting from episode 0 again.
We're going to name this one episode 0.
Episode 0, might as well.
Yeah, right.
Welcome.
I was trying to do
It's
the- I
the
was-
Dead
I
Lemons
was trying to do the
podcast that
Pinocchio.
no one watches or listens to, but that's okay, because we're here because we're bored.
We're here for 11 subscribers.
Yeah, boy.
Potentially 10 after this, depending on what's been said tonight. Even 9. Who knows?
Well, the fact that we're still
We'll get
alive
there.
shows
We'll
that we
get
haven't
there.
said anything too bad, so that's good.
Yeah. Dude, can you believe we started this, like, what, almost 2 years ago?
I think it's been 2 years already.
It's about to be 2
No,
years.
because we
It's
started
crazy.
in 2020, fool.
Yeah, well, 3 years. Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years.
Ooh, that's great. Wow.
To be fair, it's not
During-
like a solid 3 years because we've been inconsistent, especially lately, thanks to somebody.
Again, blaming me for everything.
Mostly, yes. At this point, okay. Don't try to deflect your responsibility and your fault at this, okay?
Not
We
deflecting
had-
responsibility when I have other
Just for those who care
responsibilities.
or don't care, we had an episode up and ready to go. He just chose that he didn't want to put it up again. This is the second time.
It's fine. I stand by that. You gotta have, gotta stand for what you believe in.
No, your beliefs are gay.
It's fine. Hey, other people get shot for their beliefs, so it's fine.
But-
It's
What?
fine.
And so, what does that do for you?
Nothing. Hopefully, I do the shooting.
Fair enough.
Anyways, we're back. This is more of a rant episode.
Very much a rant episode.
It's a random thing just to get something out there, just make you, just let you guys know that we're still alive. You're 11 subscribers listening. I only know one of them. I know one of them is your sister. I don't even know who the other 10 people are at this point.
Hey, sister. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, what's anything new in the communist state of California?
Not much, although there are some things coming up that may make me extra pissed off to still be here.
Oh,
I
okay.
was up in Alaska.
Well, the influx of plates I see out here now is getting highly drastic.
Oh, of course. Not surprised at
Yeah.
all. The number of people leaving California is still a lot higher than the number of people coming into California.
Oh, there's still people coming into California. They just don't have any documentation. It's the
Oh,
difference.
those quote-unquote people. I didn't think we were counting them, but yeah.
Mhm. But then, by who knows, next year, they put a bill together. Next thing you know, there's 2 million new people in California just out of nowhere.
We need a death squad, and soon.
Oh, man. Anyways, you're saying, sorry, I cut you off.
Bing Bong something China. I was up in Alaska for a bit. So, yeah, when I got back, everything pretty much was the same. Cost of living still going up, which is fabulous.
You talking about Alaska or just everything else? in general?
No. Here in California. Alaska's still Alaska.
Oh.
I mean,
Oh yeah, that's always been the case.
Yeah, you got to fly everything in there, and it gets expensive. But here doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think right now the last few gas stations I've been to, it is now over $6 a gallon. Here's a fun little annoying part. Insurance. So while I was in Alaska, my vehicle insurance had expired, and my plan was when I got back, I'll just renew it, no problem, peachy.
Oh yeah, if you miss your renewal date, they'll definitely bring up your premium.
Not just that, but because of how high the rates are right now, and everything is in California, I forgot what the number is, but there's like a huge number of insurance companies who just are not taking in any new clients until things calm down, because the prices are just way too ridiculous. So people like Progressive, AAA, so on and so forth, most of them aren't really accepting new people.
Now, what's the reason for that?
So what I was told was because the prices are too high, and they feel that if they take in a new customer, it's just going to end up in debt.
Just losing more money.
Yeah, just losing more money.
Well, the funny thing that you mentioned that, because I felt like I had this conversation with my mother-in-law the other day when she was here, and she works in insurance, and she practically just says for insurance companies, there's a law. I can't put a finger or what that law is, but she says there's a law that if you're running an insurance company or insurance firm, you need to have like a certain amount of cash reserves to make sure you can cover for everyone's premium in the event that they have to put a claim in.
Okay.
The reason being is my assumption here, personally here out in the South, a lot of people are leaving Florida for one thing, but I guess out here in Texas, you got a lot of bad drivers out here causing a lot of accidents and that's driving up the bill. So essentially, rising rates is you're paying for everyone else's bad driving behavior, which kind of sucks. So I'm assuming it's the same in California with the bad driving behaviors. I could be wrong. I'm no longer
that part.
There.
Who knows?
See what you
but
see.
It could be a mix of that plus then the fact that everything's so expensive right now.
It's everywhere. I feel
it's not everywhere, my guy. Yes, everywhere is feeling inflation, but Texas, gas at an all-time high of maybe $3 a gallon, versus California at over $6 a gallon. Yes, I understand that they're still being inflated, but one is a little bit more ouch than the other one.
I suppose, but you got to keep in mind the cost of living here is a lot lower.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying, yes, inflation is everywhere, but some places it is felt less. So Texas was one of those places where it's not going to be felt as bad. For crying out loud, you can't go to freaking Taco Bell anymore and get I think it's the last time I went there, I got maybe 3, maybe 4 things. None of them were the crazy, fancy, expensive ones, and it was still almost around $20. Whereas
Taco Bell's supposed to be the cheap.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and it ain't cheap anymore. Same thing with McDonald's. McDonald's doesn't have a $1 menu anymore. Everything's expensive. Most of their most of their burgers and whatnot, just by themselves, no combo. The Big Mac, the Quarter Pounder, a bunch of their other main staples. If you just get the burger by itself, they usually average around $7 to $8 just for the burger, whereas before that was unheard of. Some of them are even $9 or $10 just for the burger.
Wow, McDonald's had a $1 menu.
Nope.
Why? Is it because they're raising the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20
It's everything,
out
dude.
there?
It's everything.
They gotta make up costs or something.
It's the increased minimum wage. It's the inflation that everyone's doing right now.
See, here's the thing.
We're working our way towards a freaking cyberpunk future. And not the cool one, because literally it's just going to be a bunch of big corporations who own everything, and we don't get any kind of cool implants. We just get paid subscriptions.
Well, unless they implement the microchip in our wrist thing, I guess.
But that's not going to be a cool one. That's lame. Yeah. Let me double jump. Let me see cochinadas in my eyes, like all the time.
Of,
I'm just saying.
of course. It's crazy how scary like a video game is kind of close to reality because actually played Cyberpunk. Everything's owned by corporations. Governments have no power. We're kind of leaning over to that.
Well, we've been there
future,
and to some extent because when you look at Western politics, it's the corporations who have the most influence.
All the power, of course. There's that saying: if only politicians could have all their sponsors right behind them, like a UFC fighter, then we would know who the hell's backing up their campaign or their super PACs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a two-party system for a reason.
Of course.
You get people arguing over one thing, getting distracted from the bigger picture. But I feel like we've already talked about this ad nauseum.
Oh, yeah,
already,
for sure.
So.
Other than that, everything else here in California is pretty much status quo. I will say this: it's surprising how many people have left, and it still doesn't.
Where's it at right now? I forgot what was the number last time we talked
I
about.
don't even remember. I could look up the current number, but I was going to say though, with the amount of people who are gone, I'm surprised that traffic-wise, it doesn't seem like anybody's left.
Well, I've already addressed that earlier. You just had a random influx of 2 million new citizens in the census. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
Just out of nowhere, just popped out like shrooms.
So supposedly, we're around 39 million people
that have left.
No, that are here in California currently.
That's still a large amount of people, man.
Yeah. So that's.
I think last I checked, I think out here it's like we only had 8 or 10 million people, I guess.
Texas as a whole, or where you're at specifically?
Where I'm at specifically, not a whole.
Let's see.
Are you talking about like the entire state of California is 39 million, or is it just LA County?
That is the whole state.
Okay.
So for you, I'm not gonna dox you, but just the Houston area is as of 2021, which seems to be the most updated thing, is 2.28. Yeah, 2.288 million.
Okay.
So I'll look up Los Angeles. Los Angeles, we are at 3.9.
Oh, just a little bit above Los Angeles, but then again, we have more space than you guys.
You're below.
No, I'm saying Los Angeles has more.
Right, but you said below.
I don't recall saying below. Okay.
Anyways, point is, yeah.
But I'm just saying we have more space.
Yeah,
so it's felt less here.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, it's just kind of a pain, but it is what it is.
I will argue though that like getting from point A to point B is a chore here, not necessarily the traffic, just the amount of like area you have to cover to get there is kind of ridiculous.
True.
I was driving to the airport, drop off my in-laws today or yesterday, technically at this point, and it's like 30 miles of just going straight.
That is kind of annoying. I would, if I had designed the city, I would have added a few unnecessary curves here and there, just to make it feel less monotonous.
Oh yeah, well the way they designed the city is it's just circles and rings on top of each other.
No.
But then that's only if you take like, the toll roads and all that stuff like that. If you decide not to take the toll roads, then curves all day, baby.
Yeah, not so much up in northern Texas. I was up there semi-recently. And when I was driving through, it was just mostly straight. And it was just like, okay, this is boring now. Like for a couple hours.
Up in like Oklahoma or something?
No, up in Dallas.
Oh,
remember I
Dallas.
Went through the southern states, and the plane landed in Dallas, and from Dallas we went to Louisiana and a few other states.
Oh, Dallas. Well, speaking of airports, I did want to mention... Well, I mean, it's been there. It's a staple of, like, the area, but, George Bush International Airport. It's just, I find it interesting that the guy gets a whole airport named after him, even though he kind of screwed the country over, Just
is that surprising though?
I mean, I guess from what we know already, what goes on behind the scenes, I guess it's not surprising. You do enough for your donors, it's like, hey, you get an airport.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Was that it?
And
You're just been out of shape about that, or is there something more specific?
It's not necessarily been out of shape. I mean, this is always something that we both know, and we can always talk about the 9/11 conspiracy and all that stuff. But I guess the thing that kind of hits it home for me is I read a statistic somewhere. It was like before, at the time, I guess Mr. W took office, it was like we were at a surplus of like $200-something billion in the U.S. Yeah. Meaning, you know, we had money, we had spending money, we had jobs galore, economy was good, and then in the span of his entire, I guess, tenure, we end up in like how many $1 trillion of debt with all like the unnecessary military spending, you know, military industrial complex. I guess we can go back to that. But like, it's interesting that like, because obviously we were young when it first happened. And then we didn't really have any social media, so you couldn't really see what went on behind the scenes. But now that like we have all these documents and we have, you know, better access to information with like the internet and all that stuff, we can kind of look back and look at all this information and be like, hey, they screwed us. And essentially like, and the worst part about it is like, you know, if you look at the Patriot Act with all, you know, counterterrorism and all that stuff, we pretty much just signed a lot of our privacy and rights.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All that stuff going on, which kind of sucks.
Yeah,
but you know, it never really occurred to me because, you know, first of all, I was young. Second of all, you know, lack of information and access. But then looking back at it, you're like, wow, this is. I mean, going back to like, you know, Project Mockingbird and like the Gulf of Tonkin. Like, what do they first do when they do a false flag? You pin all the bad stuff that happens on a certain group of people. In this sense, insurgents, terrorists, even though a lot of funny stereotypes came out of it, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, if you actually look at it, like, there was no actual evidence that what's-his-face bin Laden actually did anything with 9/11. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was a lot of funny, weird things.
And that's just one aspect.
I think it's interesting how, well, actually, a couple things come to mind. First thing that comes to mind is how now, especially in the last few years, the concept of 9/11 being some sort of an inside job, or at the very least, the official story that was told was a lie, how much that is now accepted in the mainstream. Not necessarily mainstream media, but mainstream as in just the general public. I've been very surprised to see how many people online have now changed their initial opinion on all of that. And because it used to be before, the conspiracy theorists were like a small minority and everybody else would talk crap online. But now it's basically the other way around, where the majority seems to be like, hey, yeah, we acknowledge that it was some sort of a setup situation, and the people who are talking crap about that are now the minority. So
now, I guess we can kind of leave this as an open-ended question, but like, why do you really think the government did it, and why would they do it?
I feel like we talked about this before, but just
we have. It's just I'm just revisiting.
Yeah,
it's just. You know, with 9/11 coming through and then kind of just driving around George
like
Bush
a month
International
ago.
Airport. Yes, it did happen a month ago. But I'm saying the fact that I was at the airport and realizing that this, you know, everything stems from this guy's name is like, you know, it's thought provoking.
I think it's important first to understand that the presidents are not the ones pulling the strings. They are puppets. They are pawns. Now, they may be informed about what might happen or what is going to happen or how it's going to happen. So, you know, and then they're just told to play along. Maybe. I don't know. We're not in that realm of people, so it's hard to say for sure. But I do think that as a president, when you're going into situations like, for instance, you know, going into Iraq and Afghanistan and all that, it's been pretty clear to see with, you know, George's semi-recent interviews and whatnot that he seems to be well aware of the fact that there were never any WMDs.
That's the thing, though. It's a term that just kind of came out of nowhere, too. WMDs.
Yeah. So he
Weapons of mass destruction. How general is that?
Yeah, exactly. But
anything can be.
He
mass.
seems to be pretty aware of the fact that that was never the case. So it definitely begs the question: how much of all of the surrounding situation was he aware of? But as far as why, I mean, we've got a lot of different things going on, you know, and
reasons for why.
There's the obvious stuff, which is money, you know, follow the money. You know, the
there was
had
that
lost,
part.
You know, however many trillions of dollars, and then shortly after we got 9/11, and then the building that was never hit by a plane, which was Building 7 or Building 6, one of the two.
Was housed all the documents for all that money, right?
Yeah, so it just
Coinkydink.
But then also one of the buildings was this library of evidence for a lot of high class crime cases, including things like human trafficking and whatnot. And that building, you know, got destroyed with nothing left. You know, so very much killing
which is
multiple.
crazy because it's like before the advent of like technology, everything was kind of just sealed in documents.
Oh yeah,
so
well that's why I think it was timed correctly. They knew, you know, that very soon. I don't know if they knew exactly, but they knew that there will be a point where keeping things physically would not be a feasible thing to do anymore because of the advent of digital media and whatnot, and uploading things to the internet. So I'm almost positive that they planned it because they knew that, hey, our time holding on to these things is running out. We've got to get rid of everything now, you know, because it was 2001, you know, the year prior, everybody thought it was going to be freaking Y2K. You know?
Yeah, Y2K. Remember that one?
Yeah, so I mean, it was the very big beginnings, if you will, of the type of technology where we're at now. You know, in the extent that we have it now, because there were some really cool tech things that existed, you know, early '90s, but it was very
not to the extent that we
exactly.
have now.
Now everybody has capable machines in their hands, and they can look up whatever they want whenever they want. So yeah, I definitely think that was all coordinated accordingly. But the other thing I was going to bring up too, in regards to that whole situation, is how interesting it is that a lot of people don't remember, but Donald Trump, our favorite orange man,
Orange Man bad.
he the year prior in 2000, towards like the beginning of 2000, he had essentially foretold the happenings of 9/11.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. He kind of warned everyone.
Yeah, he was like, I'm highly convinced that we are about to suffer another terrorist attack, blah blah blah. And not only did he leave it at that, but then he even named Osama bin Laden, which I thought was, you know, quite trippy. But you know,
you know, which is, you know, if you look at anything back at Osama, he was kind of the guy funded by the CIA to go fight the communists in Russia.
100%. We built him his training camps. You know, we as Americans.
Interestingly enough, you know, same thing with Lee Harvey Oswald, but you know, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff around that. It's all pretty old news at this point for us, but it is interesting to see that many more people are now starting to believe it.
Yeah, very old news for us. But then you get labeled as a crazy Alex Jones types every time you mention it. But I always bring up the whole topic of, okay, if you know, the whole Inferno and the jet beams were, you know, hot enough to melt steel and all that stuff, then how the hell did we find their passports intact? Yeah. Which is, you know, at the time, you know, you see they're like, oh yeah, it was totally them. Yeah, the passport's evidence. And the older you get and you realize how kind of thermodynamics work, and you're just like, that doesn't make any sense. No. Yeah.
Especially when you have the actual, you know, the actual company who built those towers come out and with science and everything, like literally initially after, like right after it happened, had a whole press conference on it and everything, saying, and showing that like these beams do not melt anywhere near the temperature of those fires. And then since then, you've had other people, other experts, other professionals who have actually put it to the test. They've got their own steel beams and all these different things showing what works and what doesn't. And the only thing that works would have had to have been
explosive.
Well, yeah, military grade thermite, which is thermate, I think is what it's called. And when you look at the comparison between that and what we saw on that day, it's like, well, there's no doubt about it. And it also doesn't help too that you have firsthand witnesses, from the fire department, police department, and random citizens on that day on live television talking about hearing loud explosions from the lobby, and then footage from the first responders who showed up immediately after, walking through the lobby, which is street level, complete with all the windows blown out and everything looks like it's been like in some sort of an explosion. It's like, how does something at the very top, like on the 75th floor, make the lobby explode? Doesn't make a lot of sense. But anyways, again, old news. But
old news, another thing that's going to be brushed under the rug.
Nah, maybe. I'm actually kind of hopeful.
Until we randomly mention it again.
I'm hopeful that with this new, I hesitate to call it an awakening, but people are opening up their eyes to these things and are a little bit more willing to believe in it than ever before. So I'm hopeful that it could be about change, but how do we know that is not what the ones in charge are banking on? Because let's say you have an uprising and people finally realize, wait a minute, this government needs to be purged and cleansed. The only way you can truly do that is through force, which, according to our Constitution, is allowed.
Puts you out in the open there.
It does put you out in the open, and it's going to give
January 6th situation.
It's going to be worse.
Who's who?
Because January 6th, people were too wuss. January 6th, people should have done something more aggressive. But because they didn't, it's used as an example. But the only way to actually change the system that we're in now is violence, is war. And I don't necessarily want that. I'm just saying that's literally how things go. Historically, it's always been that way.
Now, do you think we can ever go back to another civil war?
Absolutely.
Who would be on whose side?
Absolutely. When you look at something like, the Book of Revelations, how do we get to those end times? How do we get to a one world government? You look at how many different types of people there are, different beliefs, different cultures, different traditions, all this kind of stuff, right? And people barely get along nowadays. Yet somehow we will end up in a time with a one world government. How? Well, at least to me, what would make sense is you would need a drastic crisis that affects the globe. Now, that crisis could be sparked by, one thing or the other. It could be economical. It could be some sort of a disease or whatever. But the thing that is going to push it over the edge isn't going to be that stuff. It's going to be the people who realize, wait a minute, this is all happening on purpose to control us, basically. And there will be a large uprising of people who are saying, this is not going to happen anymore. We're taking back the power. They're going to rise up. There's going to be a war. And that war is going to probably lose. Now, obviously, I'm not a freaking prophet, so I don't know for sure. Maybe it'll be successful. That would be good. That would be the best case scenario. Because then that means we do get to start from scratch again, which will be nice. But if they lose, then that gives the governments of the world an excuse to say, to prevent that, for everyone's safety, blah, blah, blah. We are now combining whatever governments to create one world government. That way we can work with everyone and keep everything under control and yakety schmack. There's going to be a huge thing. And I'm almost 100% guaranteed or 100% sure that that's going to basically be citizens versus government. And it's not just going to be here in America. It's going to happen in France. It's going to happen in Germany. It's going to happen in Russia. People are going to rise up.
Yeah, France is definitely getting hit hard, especially, I think we talked about last time, but they raised retirement to like an unheard of age, like 75 or something like that.
So it just takes one thing to piss the majority of the world off, and people will rise up and try to fight together. And if they lose that fight, then that's how we end up with a one world government at this stage.
Now, it's interesting enough because when you mention all that, I always think back to like, kind of how this country was founded with the founding fathers.
Oh yes.
That in order to fight oppressive governments, obviously coming from King George or whatever background that came from, it's like, you have your Second Amendment, your citizens have to be armed. And I'm not one of those crazy gun-toting patriot types. I'm not that, but I do feel I do see the value in having a firearm. It's supposed to be protection against the government, not necessarily other people.
Yeah.
What I mean?
All that other stuff is a nice cherry on top, but the primary reason is
the government. But, you look at countries, which I feel like is the blueprint for what everyone else, or, what they call the NWO wants, is you look at a country like China, and literally, if you know anything about China recently, they're going through that Evergreen, or was it Evergreen? Yeah, Evergreen crisis. I don't know if you heard about that. Yeah, so pretty much everyone in China, the economy is mainly like tied down to like real estate. Over here in America it's stocks, but over there in China it's real estate. So, a lot of families, working class families, are investing into, property and trying to buy land and all that stuff. And obviously putting a down payment on their mortgage. And I guess I don't even know if they call it a mortgage over there. But, the government's like, nope, you're not getting it.
Yep.
And we're keeping your money. You can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what they want for the rest of us.
Absolutely. There's things are good. I don't know. Things are same as they ever were, but at the same time, it does seem like it's being pushed real hard now more than ever.
Well, it's being pushed to the point where they're trying to normalize it. I mean, I did see this thing the other day. It was like you have like these really expensive like places like San Jose, San Francisco, which is it's kind of like a tech capital for the U.S. I'd say. And you have a lot of these workers that find it acceptable to just live in a pod, like $700 a month pod, and that's deemed like, oh, this is normal.
Which is crazy because like I'm not gonna lie, I'm cool with living in a pod if it's a cool looking pod and it has cool little like futuristic thingies, but not for no $700 a month. Like, let's be reasonable bastards about this, But that's
that used to be the rent of like a 2-bedroom apartment.
Actually,
back in the day.
Well, it depends how far back we're going, but yeah, that's like
even the 90s, man. The 90s were like that.
Yeah, and it's just it's crazy to me that the value of which things are now charged has no bearing. It doesn't make sense. There's no reason for it anymore, and yet and it doesn't help that we do have a large number of wealthy people who are willing to spend stupid money on stupid things, and then that justifies, other people to start charging. Because that's like the whole thing. When you look at like rent, whether it be houses or apartments, oftentimes the reason why rent goes up, at least back in the day, was not because they needed to do it, but because they knew they could get away with it. Because somebody somewhere would be like, hey, this area, there's a bunch of wealthy people coming over. So, maybe if we charge them a little bit more because of the location or whatever, they'd be willing to spend the money because they have it. Well, that was a successful business practice. And now that happens all the time. So you have this influx of wealthy Chinese people who are coming into America. And they are looking for a place to live. A lot of them are young, so they aren't usually looking for houses. They're usually looking for apartments or whatever. So then these apartment guys start to catch on and like, well, shoot, we'll raise the price. Well, these guys can afford it because they got that delicious CCP money from Xi Jinping. So they could go in and afford, 500 square foot, one bed, one bathroom apartment, for freaking
Charge 'em
2,000,
like
3,000.
$2,000 for it.
Yeah, I've seen them up at like over $3,000, depending on the location, and because they're paying for it, they just assume, well, then we're going to charge everybody that rate. And so it's this, and here's it comes back down to the topic of the modern era. Capitalism bad, question mark? I mean, I personally don't think capitalism is innately bad, but I do believe that it is innately imperfect, just like every other system. All it takes is a rat bastard to be selfish and greedy to find some way to break the system. And with capitalism here in America and the majority of the world where it is, that happened long ago. Long ago.
It's just, I feel like they're just pushing their boundaries and seeing what they can get away
Yeah,
with now.
exactly.
Because, like, the worst part...
Because, like, should there be a limit? Should the government come in and say, hey, you can only charge up to this amount? Should they do that? Well, some people argue no, because then that's... Exactly. But when you look at, how things are going right now, it's not really better.
But, the funny thing is, they say communism, but if you follow the money, then they're obviously funding their constituents or their super PACs or whatever politician they're trying to back.
Yeah.
Hey, take this money, support these laws. It'll be beneficial for our companies. So it's, in a way, it doesn't really matter. It always goes back to the corporations and their deep pockets. I mean, like, explain to me why Bill Gates has taken such an interest in buying farmland. There's got to be an agenda for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that sounds like conspiracy.
Guy wants to control
bro.
how. Huh?
That's conspiracy theory, dude.
Oh, you're on crack, bro.
Yeah.
No, that's a real thing. How does a tech billionaire who his only background is making chips and programs for computers suddenly take an interest into vaccines and farmland and food and all that stuff? Agriculture.
Yeah, well, not just that, but
It's
then
like,
preventing the private sector from actually, the little guy from owning anything.
Right.
That's the problem. So, do we limit? Do we set certain constraints on the wealthy, or do we not? I mean, there's no winning solution in my mind.
There really is, and there's
because people suck regardless. You had wealthy bastards who were evil in communism. You had the same in socialism. You had the same in democracies. You had the same everywhere. Again, that's why I think I talked about this an episode past, but I'll just bring it up again. There was a 4chan meetup over at Anime Expo. Not this year, because I didn't go this year.
Well, actually, you've told me this, but you've never mentioned this in a podcast.
Did I not?
Previously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
Well, I'll take your word for it. But, a couple years ago, I went to a 4chan meetup at an Anime Expo, and it was great.
Bunch of tards.
Hey, man, I love it. As I'm getting older, I'm trying to soften myself up more and more, and the nerdy kind of retarded behavior is something I value. Not every day, not everywhere, but I like it, to be a part of my life. So it was actually a pretty good time. But I did come across this one guy who was a very enthusiastic communist sympathizer. And I forgot how the conversation got brought up, but I mean, we were all drinking and having a good time and stuff. And
communist sympathizer, like he's fucking Castro.
But he believed strongly that communism was the answer, and that capitalism and democracy and everything was no good. And obviously the conversation got started. Like, is that true? Is it not true? And at first he was very combative with me. Because I was saying that, no, communism isn't the answer. But at the same time, I was trying to get him to realize that I'm not saying capitalism is the answer, And it kind of went back and forth for a bit, but I actually did get him to a point of agreement, which is the fact that, I told him, it's like, listen, maybe communism sounds really good on paper. Sure. There are certain aspects of it that do sound pretty decent. The issue is it's never worked in practice. Why? Is it because the system is broken? Or is it because people are messed up? Is it because people who are in power, who have the money and the authority and the influence, are always going to try to do what's best for them? And, he agreed to that. And I'm like, okay, it's the same thing in capitalism. Capitalism, when it first rolled out, it was fantastic. It was a great system. We screwed up as a nation by allowing them to make an amendment to the Bill of Rights that allowed corporations to be seen as individuals. But that happened long, long ago. From there, it's been a downward spiral pretty much ever since. And they've been finding more and more loopholes. It's not like they're cheating the system necessarily, but they're breaking the system because of their pride and their greed and all that kind of crap. And that's how it is everywhere. Everywhere you're going to have people at the top who have so much wealth, who have so much power, and couldn't give two craps about the little guy. And so my whole thing was this, is like, listen, maybe communism is the answer, but as long as people are the ones running it, it will never work out. And he agreed to that. And we had a drink and we were cool the rest of the night, And that's my unfortunate belief, is that.
Oh, that's right. I mean, you go down to it. Human nature is are always wanting to control and be in power and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the innate thing with human beings, regardless of what a political affiliation they choose to be.
And the masses, they want an answer. They want a solution, and I don't blame them. But sometimes, because of that emotional investment, they stick to one thing or the other. It's the same thing with politics, here in the States. Oh, Democrats or Republicans. It's got to be one or the other. It's neither. Sorry. Both sides have a good trail of corruption and history behind them. Yeah. And I'm not willing to trust either one of them. Now, if we're going to play the game, well, you kind of have to pick here and there. It doesn't mean you have to be loyal to the damn thing. You just pick and choose as you live your life. Pick the lesser of two evils, and you move on. You can't become so emotionally attached to these things that, number one, you have no idea how they work. You don't know what's happening behind, the curtain. Like, even for people like you and I, who do have a better understanding of the reality of things around us, we don't know for a fact how things go down. We're not part of these meetings. We're not the ones saying, you know what, let's move $1.3 trillion. Let's move it to these certain establishments and then to this group of people for this reason and then this timing and this schedule. It's like, we don't know everything. We can make assumptions, we can connect dots, but that's the most people in our positions can do. But as long as you're not so, I would say, purposely blinded and biased to one particular side, then you can usually have a better understanding of life.
Yeah.
And again, hey, if communism works better for everyone, trust me, I'd vote for it.
Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but past history has said otherwise.
Oh, of course, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing with that. Now, capitalism is the great experiment, as has been called. It's the first time, and it's, I guess, based on history in the past.
There were examples of other things like,
but not to this scale,
right? Exactly, and that's what we're seeing now. Is like this thing was like, okay, the experiment initially worked out great for everybody, but very quickly you had certain people who have been around for a while who realize, this is how we break the system in our favor. And
there's always going to be chess matches.
And it's interesting. It's very interesting because now we're living in a time in the last few years where more millionaires are being born, basically, every week, more than ever. And that's kind of a sign, right, of the times and of capitalism to some degree, because we're dealing with new things, YouTube, social media, the refinement of the internet, people being able to start their own businesses and advertise for free, essentially, and all this kind of crap. So people have made large amounts of money. But where it becomes pretty clear as day is that these guys, the really, really rich ones, the ones who actually hold the power, don't actually like that. And you can see that in a lot of, like, I mean, just going back to the, to the moon, with GameStop and everything. People were making big bucks. And there were multiple different companies who were like, we don't like that.
Yeah, they even made a movie about it, which is,
already?
Yeah, they did.
I'm completely unaware of that.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch it. It doesn't look interesting to me, but I just find it interesting that, like, the effort that they would put out to make a movie about some guy who shorted GameStop for profit. Yeah. Got a lot of Wall Street guys crying, but look what happened. People were making money. And you had companies like Robinhood through Apex Clearing pretty much halted trading. Yeah. Saying, hey, you can't do this. Yeah. You're not allowed to do this. It's breaking the rules. Even though, but everyone else that does hedge funds does the same thing. They short stocks. Mm-hmm. But we can't do it.
And then when you look at kind of where the world is going right now, kind of going back to the World Economic Forum as far as, their whole plan for 2030 and all that kind of stuff. It would make sense. They're trying to delete the middle class. They don't like that too many people or so many people have an opportunity to jump over the hedge into their realm. They don't want that.
It's not even necessarily to be in their realm. For the most part, most middle class people, we just want to be left alone. Let us raise our families and do all that. But, I feel like the way these so-called elites see it is, there's too many people eating too many resources that belongs to me. It's just greed.
Yeah, that's possible.
So what are we going to do with that? Let's delete the middle class, seize all their assets, regulate the food, regulate the pharmaceuticals.
Seize all their assets?
Asses. Seize all their assets. Give me all the assets.
Your ass belongs to me, boy.
Fucking like, was it Charles Schwab? Here on this economic forum, we will seize all the assets.
That's what they're after, bro.
Or boy pussy, whatever.
But, it's very unfortunate, but that's the reality of things, and people just need to. Again, the answer is stop getting distracted by the most retarded stuff. Stop getting distracted by racism. Stop getting distracted by.
It's not a fight of color. It's between the rich and the poor at this point.
It's not about who wears a mask and who doesn't. It's not even about the vaccine.
But they were saying we were expecting another COVID hit this
December,
this holiday.
We'll see what happens with that.
Prepare your anuses.
The interesting thing with that is so going into that little topic. Mm-hmm. What is your assumption? So my assumption is, because they're talking about, it's going to come back and a lot more people are going to die off. Who do you think it's going to be? The vaxxed or the unvaxxed?
Oh, well, I guess if we're talking about vax in that case, I guess I'm screwed.
Well, I'm just saying, what do you feel is the result? Is it going to be vax people dying off or the unvaxxed?
I don't really think it's going to be either or.
I'm just saying, if it does, which one?
Well, in my case, I'd probably say vax, probably.
You think
vax? And they're going to call it COVID if that's the case, but, like I said, if you know anything about VAERS and whenever you report anything that has to do with, like, vaccinations or medications is based on the FDA, I think there's a very extensive FDA, clinical trial you have to go through. Mm-hmm. To have it actually be okay for the public to take. Well, we just kind of threw all that out the board with the COVID stuff. Saying that it's for emergency use, which I get. Pandemic or whatever. Try to get it out there.
So this is my.
But the thing is, if you speed something up, you're obviously going to cut holes and cut corners, and you're going to have some side effects down the line. I feel like because you don't have enough information. It takes about 4 or 5 years. I think last time I recall.
This is my opinion. Now, I can see it...
Turn to bats.
I can see it happening that way. But what I think would make more sense is this. If your goal is to control the masses, would it really make sense to kill off the people who actually listen to you? Or would it make more sense to kill off the people who didn't listen to you in the beginning?
I don't think they care either way.
Well,
man.
it's possible. Again, this is where it goes into the realm of assumption. But I'm just thinking of like, okay, you're a government, you have a deadline, 2030. We need a massive societal change throughout the world, right? And this change is not going to be welcomed with open arms. So, do we want people who are going to rebel and not do what we tell them to do to be the majority of people? Or do we want people who are going to bend the knee? And that's why I think, personally, that if the suspicions are correct, and this time it is actually going to be a disease that's pretty dang bad, that it would actually, that the vaccine, or the people who are vaxxed, actually live. And that those who are not vaxxed are actually, for the first time, in harm's way. Because...
are you saying that the people who took their vaccinations it's just to prep them for the next wave that they're going to throw out and kill the rest of everyone that didn't take it?
That the first one was just to see how many people would take it and how many people wouldn't. And then, obviously there definitely were and still are complications with the vaccines. That's not up for debate. That is actual common knowledge now. Or maybe not common, but it's in the mainstream. All that research is coming out. But for those who took it and stuff, maybe it is a working vaccine, but not for this, but for the next one. And that those who refused it, now this thing that is actually deadly will be, the thing that takes people out. Again, it's an assumption. I just think tactically that would make more sense in order to get us to 2030 deadline.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, do you find interesting that this vaccination was or the vaccines were based off an mRNA unproven form of administration that we haven't had before,
minus the J&J
rewriting DNA and all that stuff.
Yeah.
See, I cheaped that. I got that.
Oh, well, that's good.
Fuck myself.
Well, I guess it's not good if my assumption is correct, but it's good in the sense that at least that one was a more traditional form of a vaccine and not this.
Just, give you the inert form of the virus with them.
Yeah.
Spike proteins on it, let your body just build natural immunity, which how your body builds any natural immunity. Yeah. But a lot of the stuff that's coming out, with COVID, with the recent news and all stuff with the Wuhan laboratory. A lot of this is gain of function research, that there's these fucking people out there literally making viruses to kill people with no form of cure whatsoever. And if there was a cure, profitable for the pharmaceutical companies that seem to have the patents for all the stuff that's coming out.
You say the cure?
Quite interesting. Cure, vaccinations, treatments. You know what I mean?
No.
What was that?
Monday, something rather.
Oh my lord!
Tuesday,
that guy.
Wednesday, Thursday.
We need a cure. The cure. It's just
Can you
like
imagine?
everyone's just like sick.
He is
with
our
COVID.
savior.
It's just him sitting there.
Anyways,
it's good stuff though.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so
So
we can go on forever with this. Oh, do you have anything to say?
no, I
Sorry,
was going to say let's jump on to another topic because I feel like that one.
Oh yeah, well, you screwed me. I was going to do that.
I'm sorry.
Well, we can go on forever about COVID. We always talk about COVID. It's just a never-ending, annoying topic, I guess, and we'll never know until we get there. That's the sad truth. But I do want to end with this, since we were talking about like political parties and affiliations and all that stuff. How do you feel about Mr. RFK coming out as an independent, running as an independent?
I think it's cute.
Now, do you think he has any push in causing any changes, like he says, or is he going to be another Kennedy tragedy in the future?
If he has every intention to follow through with what he wants, then yes, he'll definitely. I would be
mind you, kind of morbid that I said he's gonna get killed.
No, well, dude, look at the rest of his
I don't
family,
mean that
bro.
for him. I don't mean that for him though. Honestly,
Of course not. But I mean, you're just stating something that's reasonable.
and it's become a pattern apparently.
Yeah. So I think if he is successful, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if he does get off, like, you know, his other family members. I'm also not 100% confident that he's that guy, you know. Just because,
Not with that voice.
yeah, and he hasn't been like we're
strong enough, or hasn't shown he's a strong leader.
yeah, he hasn't really convinced me, you know.
He hasn't been daddy.
The issues and whatnot with surrounding the Kennedy family does make me want to believe that he has America's best interests in mind, but that unfortunately doesn't mean a whole lot. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm not really putting any eggs in the basket right now. The only thing I'm waiting on is to see who the finals are, and go from there. I mean, DeSantis, I'll pass. Trump,
DeSantis?
huh? DeSanta.
Santa.
No, not Santa Claus. DeSantis man from
DeSantis, man.
from Florida. You know, my thing would be Trump has my vote unless something really interesting comes up. But right now, not seeing a whole lot. Now, if RFK Jr. does get close, then yeah, I'll vote for him. Maybe. But if it's between him and Trump, then again, I would have to see something very... I don't even know what it would have to be. It would just need to be something that stood out, like, clear as daylight, you know? Because Trump now has a track record, you know? And his 4 years that he was in office, those were pretty good. Kind of missed those. Whereas Kennedy Jr. doesn't really have much to speak for himself when it comes to a track record in the presidential stuff. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. We took a chance with Trump, and that worked out, you know? So, I mean, him not having any prior experience doesn't necessarily mean no. It just makes me a little nervous. Yeah, so, I mean, well, I don't know. I'm not really too confident on that.
It's too early to tell. I just wanted to bring that up, see your opinion on things. We don't have to get too crazy about it. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's still a two-party system, and we still don't know who's actually, you know, who they say they are and have the American people's best interest, you know? Because, you know, other people say, yeah, Republicans, but then, you know, we had Mr. W not too long ago run for Republican, and he pretty much screwed the country over. Yeah. And then a Democrat right after him screwed the country over.
Oh, yeah. Royally, and is still to this day somehow still in office. People still saying, oh, yeah, he's totally mentally fine. I'm like, how stupid do you think we are?
Mm-hmm. But that's not the priority anymore. People are too easily convinced of things that they don't see in front of them, I suppose. You know, hence why I carry myself the way I do at work every day. You know, there can be petty arguments between people, and I just look at the bigger picture. I'm just a small guy in an ocean of confusion, I guess, if that makes any sense.
It's very emo, but yes, it made sense.
Oh.
Let's end this off on a topic a little bit more lighthearted.
Oh God. Okay, what?
iPhone 15.
I've never owned an iPhone, so I can't say anything.
They now have a USB-C.
Okay.
How do you feel about those iPhone faggots who think that Apple invents everything?
So what's the argument here? That they're gloating about they have a USB-C
They are now gloating about having USB-C.
But we've had that.
We've had that for a very long time. They refuse to admit that the reason why there's a USB-C now is due to the European Union saying, hey, you can't be having this other crappy subpar cable. You need to have USB-C.
I feel like that was just like a money thing. They're trying to save money on some sort of patent or something, but who knows?
Who knows? All I know is that they lost, and so now they have USB-C, and now
Now they're spending more money.
and now just for the cable, not the power block, but just the cable
Are you telling me
is
did they
like
still have everything separate
$50
for USB cord?
Yeah. USB-C cord version 2.0.
Dude, you can buy a USB cord on Amazon for like $5 for a pack of like 3 or something.
Yeah, that are like version 3 version.
Now, is it any different from a regular USB-C cord?
No,
Or is it?
absolutely not.
Is it? It's the same USB-C cord.
Except I believe the USB-C cord
Maybe-
that's on their website is power only, no data transfer.
Oh my god, that's even less. 'Cause
Yeah.
Even the $5 ones you buy can do data transfer.
It's ridiculous how many people are still going, and this is, and I guess it kind of ties in a little bit to some of the topics that we're talking
Pretty much
about.
what we're saying.
How many
brand
people?
loyalty.
Yeah, go over there. They'll
Party
eat
loyalty.
it up. They'll stand in these stupid lines, overnight, camping out to buy an overpriced phone with overpriced accessories, and they'll think, whatever. What is his name? Tim Cook.
Tim.
Tim
Yeah,
Cook,
Tim
you've
Cook.
invented everything, and you're awesome, and you're a god.
Tim.
Oh, you people with Android phones? Ew, you're poor. No, you're an idiot with your money, is what you are.
Well, first of all, you shouldn't be buying a new phone every year. That's
Yeah,
asinine.
or at the very least, I'll say this too. If you have the money and you just don't care to get a new phone every year, I say go for it. But why are you being the first person to own one? That historically in the tech industry is a recipe for disaster. The first batch always has issues. Why are you that retarded that you have to stand in line for a whole day or two to get a phone that's
Oh man, they're just
historically going to
they're
mess
just-
up?
they're just consumers. They've won. Okay, let's just say that.
Yeah.
The big corporations have won. They've gotten their tendrils in a lot of the common folks' head, and they have them convinced that in order for your life to be worth shit, you have to own the newest iPhone. And like I said, that's just a sad way of living. And for you and I, we can kind of sit back and look at the world and see how people kind of operate and consume things and say, hey, that's not for us. That's not what we prioritize. But for some people, that fills a void in their heart to have the new iPhone, whatever number it is, was it like 14 or something like that?
Right now it's 15.
They made 15 of these, and it took them how many generations to stick a USB-C on it? Like, come on.
USB-C has been out for ages now. There's been it's a far superior connection. It's made no sense for them to hold on to that stupid little lightning cable as long as they have. And then, like I said, and then to charge $40 or $50 is one of those two. I don't remember, but still, even
Separate
out the
cord, right?
yeah, just the cord, and I think it's only like a 3-foot cord. It's like
Just to stick an Apple logo on it, right? $50 right there. Just stick an
Stupid.
Apple logo on it.
absolutely stupid. And see, it kind of goes into the thing with capitalism. Should that be allowed? I don't know. Because you
Well-
look at the like, what is value, right? Like, when you look at something like gold, what is its intrinsic value? Like, we know it's valuable
actually.
because it's very useful in things like electronics, chemistry, so on and so forth. It is a very valuable substance. But what is that numerically, right? Well, you have to look at its rarity and all that kind of stuff. Well,
We put value on it.
right. But, I mean, you can. It's just, it has to make sense. But then when you look at something like a diamond, where we're told, oh, no, well, they're very useful. True. It's a very crazy, cool, rock. True. And it's very rare. Not true. That whole the diamond scam, has been, I want to say, busted for decades now, but people still
That blood diamonds.
the fact is that they're not that rare at all. Yet,
They're very abundant. Actually, you can even make them in a lab at this point and charge.
but they try
fucking
telling
arm
you,
and leg for it.
they're not as good. Although chemically
You need the
they're
earth to
exactly
make
the
it.
same. So it's you got stuff like that plays a hand at value and all this kind of crap, and it kind of makes things annoying. But like, so when you look at something like a cable that charges your phone or whatever and transfers data, or hopefully transfers data, what is that value? And should it be allowed for a company, especially if you're like a little mom and pop shop and you got to make ends meet, and you know you have people coming in to buy your $5 cable that you spent $5 on, but you really need to make ends meet, so you're going to charge them $20. That's quite the profit, but it's less crazy and it's a little bit more reasonable because, hey, these people are not, you know, they're just trying to make some profit to live and you know, maybe progress in life. But when you have a multi-billion, is Apple still billion or are they trillionaires now? I don't remember. But
either or,
multi-billion or $1 trillion company who is gigantic worldwide. Do they really? Is it just as acceptable for them to sell a cable at $40 or $50? You know, it's like I don't know. I don't want to say yes or no, but I do sympathize with people who see capitalism being a major issue. I don't think it's the issue as we just discussed, but I can sympathize with that.
Well, I would say if in that case, since you know Apple's a major conglomerate, and if they get any bigger and they phase out the other, you know, cell phone companies, then yeah, they can justify all that bullshit that they're doing right now. But the thing is, you got a lot of these Apple loyalists that think this is the thing that they need in their life.
I think people have lost touch with the reality that we actually hold the power. If you just stop buying, it's the same thing with gaming.
Oh yeah.
If you just stop buying this crap, they wouldn't do it anymore. But too many people just say, okay. And that's why these companies continue to operate in this manner.
It's just they're just nudging to see what they can get away with. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, what was our, you know, back in the day we used to get the charging cable and the port, you know, with the phone. Now it's like, okay, that's separate now. You got to pay for that.
Yeah,
because we
can. It set a trend. It set a trend for everyone else because it was Apple first who was like, I don't remember if it was the earphones first or the power block first, but it was one of those things, and then. Lo and behold,
yeah, we did used to get earphones too, which is crazy.
And lo and behold, yeah, you know, it worked out for them. So then other companies like Samsung and what is the other one, LT or whatever the crap, there are a bunch of different companies. We're like, oh, it worked out for them. I guess we'll do the same thing. So then everybody didn't get a power block or earphones, and then you know Apple did it again, and it's just ridiculous. You know how this company. Or companies like it, not just crapping on Apple here, can get away with so much, and it's legal, it's allowed. But did they make the phones any cheaper when you go and buy them? Because there's no power block now and there's no earphones now. No, it's still the same amount and climbing. You know, it's just asinine, absolutely retarded. I don't understand it.
What happened to ending? Well, we're ending on a good topic. That wasn't good at all.
Oh, yeah. How did we get there?
You did that, not me.
I just wanted to talk about iPhone.
I was, you want to get on the iPhone. I was going to end with, regardless of all the things that we've talked about, and, you know, I was going to mention work and how we kind of go about the day, regardless of the little dramas and the petty arguments and all that stuff, and the latest thing coming out, like the new Apple, whatever. It's like, just step back. You know, take a third-person view of things or whatever. Step out of your own self and kind of look at the world in the big picture and understand what's going on. And you will realize that the little things don't really matter in life anymore. And then you can go about your day.
Yeah.
You know?
And get married.
I guess. I mean, that is one of the little things, I suppose. Just appreciate the little blessings in your life and not get carried off by... you know, the big corporations.
Things that you have, like, people want to be in control of everything. The reality is...
you're not going to be in control, yeah.
If you're not a part of those companies and you don't own them, or politics or whatever, you have no control. So I agree with you here. Enjoy the little things. Stop spending your time and your mental capacity being worried about political things or celebrities or...
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, dude, I swear. That's a whole other story.
At this point.
Yeah,
I know.
Stupid thing, you know, but she saved her and stuff. But, you know, stop.
Taylor's a cop.
Like, your life is so short. Stop caring about other people's lives so much. Like, and I don't say that in a selfish way. If you want to serve. If you want to be sacrificial for someone, do it. But don't be, so concerned about the lives of other people, especially celebrities and politicians and stuff, because at the end of the day, it's all a sham. And maybe their money's not a sham, but guess what? You'll never get a lick of it. Ever. Unless you join the bastardized system. But
the Illuminati.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, at this point, I'm like, hey, listen, guys, you pay me enough. Maybe.
I know, that's the sad thing. We talk about it all the time,
Yeah.
but I feel like you and I, if given the opportunity, we probably fall in the same crowd.
Oh, for sure. But I would like to think that you and I, we would do the Luke Skywalker thing.
Destroy it from within.
After we've made a good amount of money, or like, okay, we're good, we're set for life. All right, now kill everyone.
Toss them in the hole, and then 6 years later, just come back with somehow they came back
As a woman. Oh.
No. Anyways, that was the Dead Lemons podcast episode. I don't even know what episode this was.
This is episode 23 since you threw out the last one. So, Thank you everyone for listening, and whether you got all the way through or just get to the end, it is what it is. We appreciate.
Or not even 2 seconds for most people.
We appreciate whatever amount of time that you spent on this with us, and we hope. I'm going to stop saying things now because every time I try to make something in concrete, things don't go well. So I'm not making any promises, but we will see you again. And until then, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your life. Stay healthy. Stay frisky. And just chill out,
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated. Go steal some free waters from your local dealership.
Specifically the Honda dealership on Sherman Way.
They got good stuff. Good night, everyone.
Sure, he'd welcome a visit from you.
Okay, I'm gonna go see him.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Chef Broccoli.
See you, Charlie.